will discuss in this chapter about buildings, paintings and books we available from the ancient time period of history in India. We will start with buildings, then paintings and then about books. So, first when we are discussing about buildings, we need to remember that science at this age that developed in a way that it has even marked today as something that is miraculous happened. Let us take example of iron pillar at Mehurali, that is in front of Qutub Minar. First it was an idea of historians, like it was made at the time period of Qutubuddin Aibak or at the time of Delhi Sultanate period. But afterwards we have seen that when they started researching on iron pillar, they have seen that it was built before than that, much before than that period that is mentioned, and maybe it is uprooted from some other place, and maybe they brought it in Mehurali and then they erected the iron pillar there. How we can say that it was like that? Because we have seen that some of the Hindu types of like lotus flower petal was there. Garuda, the Vahana of Vishnu, is even his statue is depicted in this pillar. By seeing this, we can easily say that it was not meant by the Sultanate period rulers. On the other side, when they started searching for the metallurgical side of the pillar, as this iron pillar, though it is standing in the hot sun and even the rainy season, though Delhi is dry, but even then till today it is not rusted a little also. It is completely a rust free iron that was developed, the procedure to make rust free iron that was developed at this time period in ancient India, and it was made approximately 1500 years ago. It is made of iron, 7.2 meter high, and it weighs over 3 tons. Now can you imagine how these people they made it? Now it is proved that it was made at the time of Chandragupta, maybe 1 or 2 Chandra, and at the time of Gupta dynasty. Now that is the amazing thing that at the time of Guptas it happened, that we can claim that at the time of Guptas science and metallurgy it has reached in its height, because the kings and the administration they helped them a lot to develop, and many people, those who really kept their name in golden words in the history, and they were able to keep the name and fame of Indian history high in the world. Even this is the time when we have seen that not only the buildings they were made by stone as it was before. At the time of Guptas, we have seen in Bittergaon, Kanyar by Kanpur, we have seen the first brick made temple. The concept of temple came to man's mind that God must have some separate place, and as I told you that the temple can be a major attraction for the people, those who are coming as pilgrims, and it can even develop as a trade center, trade city. So many administrators and the kings they had a tendency to make all these huge temples. Another thing we have seen that the Buddhist stupas also, this is the time when it developed a lot, because most of the rulers like Ashoka, like Harshavardhana, they helped. Even the Gupta rulers, though they were the follower of a strict follower of Hinduism, but they were religiously not biased, and they helped all the other religion that was existing prevailing in the society, and as a result they also helped to make all these stupas. Now these stupas were generally made for the Buddhist people or the Jain monks to stay for. Even they made some casket where the dead bodies of the monks they kept, there may be the ashes or the things they used, those materials they kept all those in the casket. and they kept it in the stupa, and then they covered it with stone slabs. There was a pradakshina patha, that is in the temple, which actually it is around, and around the stupa it was surrounded with railings, and they said that if the pilgrims, those who are coming there, they need to take around their entrance through the gateways, they need to take a circle of the stupa of the temple in the same way. Railings and gateways are often decorated with sculptures. Even we have seen that many places, maybe the one of the group, they have donated something, using their culture, their way of craftsmanship to make that stupa or the temple beautiful. Like Amaravati, at that point of time, it was a magnificent stupa, and many of these carvings were for decorating. It was a stupa was made almost 2000 years ago. We have seen that some of the craftsperson for stupa, they have donated maybe one gate made by ivory. They have the Ivory Makers Association, they have donated that gate, and that also is bearing as a real beauty, as well as that is showing their craftsmanship in these areas. And not only stupa, I told you, even the temples developed at that point of time. Many temples, the major deities were Shiva, Vishnu or Durga. They were worshipped at this time, and many temples where these deities were there, these temples were developed at this time. Most important of the part of all the temples as per Hindu ritual, it is the Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha means the place where they are, that is a place for the deities, a major deity to be there. And it was the priest who performed all those religious rituals, and many of the time the common people, they don't have even, they never had the right also to enter inside the Garbhagriha. Now shikharas, the tower, shikharas are the tower that in a temple, that custom also developed at this point of time, that the huge shikharas was made at this point of time, and they were usually given the magnificent look to the building, as well as the power of the deity, that also depict him by building magnificent shikharas. At this juncture of the time, building shikharas required careful planning, because it is not at the ground level they are preparing it up high on the temple, and it was a huge place where that they need to arrange the stones one after another to build them. There were some of the assembly halls in all the temples where all the people, they can assemble there, and the finest temple was built at this point of time in Mahabalipuram and Aihole. Now, how was it made? Who was the sponsor? Who used to give money, that much of money to the people, those who are building temples at this point of time? It was mostly the king and the queen. Other than that, even the traders, they also helped a lot by donating for developing temple, for making temples. Even the common people also, in their how much they can do, maybe a craft person, they also have done something, because it is for a religious purpose, so they did in that way. Good quality of stone they have to found, and for that they need to carve it, change it, weld it, and then they need to use it for developing temples. If we see the temples at this point of time, which of all the temples they are existing in India, we can easily find that these temples are beautiful. It is not only that anyway made for the deities to stay. Beautiful sculptures we can see on the stone on these temples, and these all are it is step by step, with a great planning they made all these temples. And if you are interested to know more, if you search history of any temple, any famous temple, you will find that lots of architectural sense and science working behind building this type of magnificent magnificent temples in India. Now, how common people they are helping, contributing, they are contributing to build a temple. It was not an easy job. We know that the kings, queens, they were there to pay the enormous whatever the money part is needed, because it was really a huge job to complete. They need to search for good stones, carve it, and they need to place it wherever the exact point it is needed, and for that the calculation, for that the people, the architect, those who are helping to build them, they were also were paid. Now how common people they are, they usually they contribute, either they are contributing their labor, or the pilgrimers, as a pilgrimer, when they are visiting all these stupas and the temples, they used to bring some gifts or money. In that was the way that was the way actually they are helping that stupa or the temple to grow up more. Like the Association of Ivory Workers, they donated a beautiful gate at Sachi that even today is bearing their magnificent work in Sachi, at Sachi. We among the other who paid for decorations were the merchants, the big farmers, the garland makers, the perfumers. So those who are the very common people, even some of the women also, they known only by names inscribed on the pillars, those who paid whatever, however and whatever they can pay for the betterment of these religious places. Coming to the painting, a major a huge collection of painting, mostly those who are talking about Jataka stories, we can see in the caves of Ajanta. Even today the colors they use, they are very much clear on this painting, and even today we are really surprised to see, it's really surprising that how they drew it inside those dark caves. Maybe day after day they need to lit some fire in some other way, and they need to make some arrangement of the light to draw those beautiful pictures. And even think about the colors, they used such a long back period that even today you can get the effects of this color on these pictures. They are mostly the cave paintings, and Ajanta is the place where we can find all these paintings. Next we will be discussing about the books. The world of books we can divide into majorly two parts. One is religious and another one is secular. Now the religious literature part will carry the Puranas, epics, stories that we got from the common people, and Jatakas and Panchatantra stories, they are in the religious side. And many secular literature also was there. We will discuss now about them. Some of the best known epics that was written in this period of time. Remember that Ramayana and Mahabharata, though the stories were there long back, they started, as we know that first they started listening to it and then learning to it. And that is the way generation after generation it passed by. This is the time when it was written, it came in a form of a book. People started writing it down. So it is the time for writing epics. Puranas means actually the literary meaning, if you see, that means old. So whatever the old slokas, old ethics of the society that we find at from the time of Vedic period that passed in the society, these all now it came out in the form of a book that was named as Purana. Now the Sanskrit epics we know that in India we have two epics, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata. I hope that all of you have read those stories that actually that told the lifestyle of the administrative people as well as the common people, those who were there at that point of time. There are many stories from the South Indian part also we have seen, that there is a Tamil epic that is the name is Kadam, that is composed by a poet named Ilango. It was around 1800 years ago, where a relationship between a merchant and a court lady, administrative lady, that was given, and then how the relationship pattern was changed, what happened there, that those all was given there. At the same time, the same continuation of this same epic, we have the same story we have seen, that was written another after 400 years afterwards, where their daughter, it was a life story of their daughters, how she grew up and what happened with her in that way, and that surrounding story that grew up in that way. Now how they help in this us to know that how the society pattern was changing at the time of their parents and the time of daughter. What was the change in 400 years, this duration of time, how the society has changed. This glimpse we can see from these stories. And now people started preserving these stories. Now whatever the grandmother tells kind of, or the gurus told all those stories about the deities, about the gods, it all started, people started writing them down in a form of book that is called as Puranas. It is written in simple Sanskrit words that is meant to heart by everybody, people can understand it. They started make Sanskrit also more available for common people, including women and Shudras, who were not allowed even to learn Vedas and all these things. Now by the form of Purana, it is available for all in the common people in the society. Common people, they used to gather in one place and they used to listen to them. Now they started learning the meaning. Now they started learning what it is written in Vedas. As these all are old things that was again rewritten, they were named as Purana. What about the story of Ramayana and Mahabharata? Ramayana was a story of a king who lived a very modest life, and who tried to change the society, and who brought a it is an ideal type of character with an ideal kingdom, how king must be, how he has to rule to please his subject. These was we can find in Ramayana, where Rama, to please his father Dasharatha, he left everything, his kingdom, his everything, and he went to the forest to live there for 14 years. From there, even the king Dasharatha, who abducted his wife Sita, and at the end of the story we have seen that Rama, who was actually representing dharma, that is we can say the loyalty and the honesty, the modesty, he was representing them, and he was a winner. And as the way it's depicting, the epic is depicting us that we can even develop our life if our in the way Raja Ram has done, that if we can be honest and we can follow the way of honesty and truthfulness and all these religious ways. Next we are coming, the Ramayana was a story, it was written much before than Mahabharata. The story stated a time period where it was not, the society was not that complex, as the relations was not that complex as it was in Mahabharata. Mahabharata is a family fight where both the parties, Kuru and Pandava, they fought the battle of Kurukshetra to gain power, and at the end we have seen that that everything destroyed. Though the Pandavas be of the bearer of the religious honesty, they won the battle, but ultimately nothing survived. They lost everything to get that winning power in to get that kingdom in their hand. We need to remember that Bhagavad Gita, where the gist of mankind is written, by informed that Bhagavan Krishna, it is said by God Krishna, it was written by them, it was told by him, the God himself, that is also a part of Mahabharata itself. Next we can see the stories. Now these stories were also, if you see, most of the stories, though it was told maybe long back, people started telling those stories, and like bedtime stories, it pass on generation after generation. But all these stories, mostly it was the relation of common people with God. How God is helping the good people and how God is punishing the bad people. Most stories are about that, to build up a moral character of human being. And many songs, many poems also was written at this point of time. They even perform many plays that is very much related to their own life, how they build up at the time of at that point of time. Jatakas and Panchatantras, again they are part of, Jatakas were part of Buddha's last incarnation, Bodhisattva's life. Many are there, many stories are there, and if we see that, though there are genuinely 24 Jataka stories, but afterwards we can find many Jataka stories. It was added by some of the monks, those who worked on them, those who started preaching people by the way that they wanted to change the society by the name of Buddha, that how God wants to see the society, so people need to change themselves, and they need to modify themselves in their life. Stories of Jataka often shows in the railings of the stupas, they depicted in the forms of painting in Ajantas. Mostly the Ajanta paintings, they are based on Jataka stories. Panchatantra also is some of the more stories with a moral at the end of each stories, that what we learn from these stories and how we can implement it in our life. This was the time when secular literature also developed in the society. People started writing on science, people started writing on literature, people started writing on mathematics, and Gupta's, the time of Gupta period is literally known as golden period of Indian history. This is the time when even about science, it was written something, science, maths, everything developed at this point of time. It was known as the golden age of history. Gupta time period was known as that. A famous scientist named Aryabhatta, who was written Aryabhattam, it was written on science. They find out, they discovered zero with numericals, different numericals, and people started using it. It continues to work even not only in India, but even outside of India also. The scientific explanation of eclipse, that also was given at this point of time in some of the books. In all these books we find there, and they Aryabhatta, he had a very clear idea about geometry also, because he was the first one who has given us that how to calculate the circumference of a circle, which is almost the same even today, the one we are following with that. So along with this, we can see that at the time of Guptas, the science, mathematics, technology, metallurgy, everything improved in a great, they improved and they reached in a great height at the Gupta period. When these all were happening in India, China was also developing something else, and that was paper, that is needed for everyone for everyday use. And do you know that the way even today we are making our handmade papers, they are actually, we are following the way the Chinese people, they made their first paper. The inventor of how to make paper was Kai Lun, and it was a long time period when only Chinese, they had control on this, at how to make paper, this handmade papers. Afterwards, some Arabians, Arabian trader, they went to China, and they still the way, they still the learning, they learned by stealing that how to make paper, and even they worked as a prisoner for a long time at China, and then they escaped. They came back to Middle East region, and they spread the procedure, that how to make paper. And in the Baghdad area, Africa, and it spread to Europe and other region. Much after that, the surrounding territories, they also learnt about that, and then it spread outside of China. It was a sole property of China how to prepare by using pulp and all, how to make those handmade papers. So it was it was the development what we have seen in China, and we really are grateful for that.